Hello again, I'm Bill DeYoung with the St. Pete Catalyst. Thanks so much for joining us for the Catalyst sessions today. Say hello to Rachel Lynett, who is a playwright in Madison, Wisconsin, and a published playwright and a theater teacher and a brilliant, brilliant woman. Her show is called Letters to Kamala, and it is coming virtually to American stage as part of this Reimagined season, starting October 21st. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, first of all, the Rachel Lynett Theater Company is up and running. I think you said something on one of your blogs like, leave it to me to start a theater company in the middle of a pandemic. What, can you explain exactly what the company is and what your goals are?
Sure. So the company is a theater company that's focused on doing brand new work, 100% super new, like first drafts.
Yeah.
Presenting it to the audience and having a way for playwrights to workshop their work, but with a focus on women of color and queer playwrights. I think that a lot of times there's not a lot of theaters that are dedicated to those two communities, and there's usually like the one slot, and then you just hope everyone's fighting for the one slot. So we wanted to open it up to say that's all we're doing.
Yeah.
This year, we're doing just my plays because I don't have to pay myself royalties. That's really the only reason.
How many have you written, by the way, Rachel?
How many plays have I written?
Yeah.
I think it's 32 at this point.
Oh man. So there's a lot to go around if you're just doing yours now. But that's certainly valid and worthwhile viewpoints to explore. And it makes me wonder, I mean, are we talking about like tokenism in the theater community? Like, yeah, well, I think you just said, oh, we'll slot one in. And you're trying to get around that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, I do point blank think there's a lot of tokenism in theater. Yeah. I think that if you ask someone to name a Black playwright, the only two they can name is August Wilson and Lorraine Hansberry. But I also think part of it is just a perceived lack of resorces that the theater company.
I'm a white guy, and I'm going to say Dominique Morisseau, and then I'm going to let you keep talking because that's how thick-skinned I am. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, and so
she's great. Yeah,
she's great. She's brilliant. Yeah. So yeah, and so we just wanted to create a space that said that instead of being the one play in the one slot, like all of the slots are this. We also, another really big thing is just looking at the structure of the nonprofit. Is we also push for pay equity where everyone gets paid exactly the same. So there's not this weird hierarchy of fighting for like, I'm more important and I'm going to leverage my power. It's we all have equal say and it's a collective approach. But yeah, there is a lot of tokenism in theater. I think theater is attempting to be better, especially after what happened in June of this year. But I also think what we really need is we just need more people, women of color and queer artists in leadership positions, which means that some people just need to step down, which isn't happening.
Well, that's something, a phrase that I got from one of your blog posts where you said that your mission in one way was to decolonize American theater. And explain that to me exactly what that means. I think it's what you're saying, but yeah.
It's kind of really big to explain. The simplest way to explain it is just to say that like theater has been run, American theater has been run historically by white men who got together and were like, let's make a theater company happen. And then like in the 60s and 70s where it was fun and experimental, it then evolved into this regional theater movement, which the same people who are running it and as this like fun little experiment are now running it as like a corporation, but it's still somehow a nonprofit. And resources aren't equally distributed. And so to me, part of decolonizing is reallocating resources, reallocating opportunities, and looking at whose voices we're prioritizing and whose voices have been silenced and how to give them extra space now in this company.
How's it been working out so far? I mean, virtually, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's been really great. We haven't had as much problem with the virtual world. I think because I think there's a difference when you were live and people got used to that live expectation and then you go to virtual versus we've always been virtual. And people seem to really enjoy it a lot. We also, one of the biggest premises is we're not producing plays. or they're just readings, they're development opportunities. And so people really like feeling like they're kind of in on something really early on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that feels really special and unique. Like we just did a play called Black Mexican that opened October 4th, but I didn't finish. I wrote it on September 4th. So when we say new, we mean brand new plays.
Oh, yeah.
That's what's exciting about it.
Well, I think you came to our attention down here as part of the American Stage New Play Festival. Was it Good Bad People was yours?
Good Bad People, yeah.
So you were already in the Midwest or wherever you're living at the time. Did you just see a thing and submit it? Do you know anything about Florida or St. Petersburg or American Stage? Or is that what playwrights do? Yeah, let's see if I can get this read and produced.
I was living in Arkansas at the time. And did I know anything about Florida? Yes.
Well, I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And you see an opportunity and you just send your play. I sent about 100. I applied to 100 opportunities a year. So that was just one of the 100, and that was one of the ones that came back and said yes. Florida seems to like my work a lot. This weekend I have a play in a company in Florida. I've worked with Theater Lab before. I've also worked with Florida Studio Theater quite a bit.
Yes.
And Orlando Shakespeare Theater. So I don't know, there's something about my work that Florida likes.
Well, you were commissioned to do letters to Kamala, and I read somewhere, so this is just me reading a press release, that you also had 2 commissions from Florida Studio Theater this year. So yeah, Florida is a reciprocal thing going on here. Tell me about this show, about Letters to Kamala, and I mean, I've read a sort of a synopsis of it, but I'd rather hear you tell us what happens.
Yeah, so the play, without giving too much of it away, is the idea behind the play is that Kamala Harris is backstage about to give a speech, and she's kind of she's struggling with what she's going to say, and she calls on her ancestors or people who have helped guide her, people she looks up to kind of help offer her some words of wisdom before she goes on stage. And the people that she calls on are Charlotta Bass, who was the first Black VP on a ticket, VP nominee. Yeah, on a ticket. And then Charlene Mitchell, who was the first Black woman to run for president, and Patsy Mink, who was the first woman of color in the House of Representatives. And so these 3 women come and they talk a little about what they learned in their careers and give her some words on how she can move forward. And the whole play is surrounded around Kamala's imaginary question of how do you mend a country with a broken heart?
Yes.
And each one of these women take their own approach to that.
Well, when you were approached for this, what did they say to you? Give us something that works with the election, with the racial divide in this country. You know, how much of a sort of a cue sheet, I guess, did they give you in the beginning, and how did you run with that?
It was really great. Stephanie called me. My play was also in the shorts that they did when my plays was in there. Mm-hmm. So I had just finished doing that with them, which was really fun with American Stage. And Stephanie called me, and it was one of those really great moments of just like mutual creativity, where Stephanie was like, I have an idea. It's not fully fleshed out yet. There feels like there's so much going on, and I want to write a play towards what's happening now. And I just kind of like bounced off that. And I was like, well, what if we wrote a play about Kamala Harris? And what if we talked about other women who have been trailblazers? And then she bounced back. She was like, yeah, why don't we do this? And so it was really a great synergetic moment of us kind of creating the pitch together.
Are there 4 actors, or is it just the one actor doing every one?
There are 3 actors.
Okay. But there are 4, it's Kamala and the 3 women.
Yes. Kamala is an off-stage presence.
Okay. You notice that pregnant pause there. I'm like, I can imagine this. What drives you as a playwright? You know, I was talking with you earlier about things that I saw on your blog, about things, as we said, that you'd like to change in the construct of theater. But what drives you to write what you write, specifically about women and change and things like that?
What drives me as a writer is I like to write stories that I haven't seen. I know that when I was a theater major, there were a lot of, I tried acting and I always kind of got stuck playing the same role over and over and over again. And I got tired of that.
Mm.
And so for me, what drives me is what have I not seen on stage? What stories have we not been telling? What stories should we be telling? And just representation, always making sure that whose voices haven't been heard and how do we get them on stage and how do we get them on stage in a really complex and interesting way. Also just because I'm really interested in seeing women be a little bit messier rather than the perfect mother, the perfect daughter. I like to see women kind of make really messy decisions and see what the aftermath of that
Like
is.
real life.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Someone has joined us here, and I hope you'll. I already told you she was coming, so it's not that much of a surprise. But there's Stephanie Gularte there, turning her phone. I think. Hi, I think she's sideways. Hey there. There she is. Hey. So we're here with Rachel, and we've been talking about. And she was just telling me about how. There you go. About how you were in on, here's this cornell phrase, on the ground floor of getting Letters to Kamala constructed, that the two of you kind of brainstormed a few things together, and then she, as the artist, ran with it. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think she's being a little bit generous to me in saying that, because I literally went to Rachel and said, I want to talk about a commission around that can maximize this unusual time and platform that we have, and it feels like we need to speak to this moment of Kamala was just nominated, and this is an opportunity for us to open our season with something that creates a dialogue. That's what I got. And she took that and immediately had a concept. And it was one of those, I think, and Rachel, like, I always want to be careful that I don't tell this story for both of us, because for me, it was like, as soon as I said that, and then she had an idea immediately, it felt like it was already off and running, because her idea was absolutely connected with what a feeling that I had, but she brought a greater tangibility to it. And so I've been trying to mostly stay out of her way.
Rachel was just telling me that the show that she wrote, I think it was Black Mexican. You wrote it on September 4th, and it was performed virtually, I guess, on October 4th. So that leads me to ask, Kamala Harris was confirmed in what, August or something? When I see somebody smiling here, both of you. So when did all this transpire? I mean, you are fast, and I mean, was it something like Black Mexican, like, I got it, I know what I'm going to do, and you wrote the whole thing in a night? Are you that fast?
It's hard to keep the timeline right, but it was pretty fast. It was a pretty fast turnaround.
Yeah.
Because I was working on this play with other plays. So I think it was about a month. Like, we talked, and then a month later, we had a draft, and we were working, and now we're in rehearsal.
Yeah, and you remember, Rachel, like, we had our conversation. I mean, we were already going to talk about a project, and we had a meeting scheduled, and the nomination happened, and I think our meeting was shortly after that. And that was the first conversation we had about a commission. And then Rachel had an idea on the spot. And then it was that weekend, however many days later, so it was within a few days, that you sent me initial, like, here's the concept and here's some initial pages. Like it would happen within a week. She
had been a part of the New Play Festival, I guess, last year or the year before, with Good Bad People. And Rachel was just telling me that you did a short of hers also. Do you find, Stephanie, that there become go-to people? I like her work, I'm going to talk to her. Does that? How often does that happen?
Well, finding new collaborators it doesn't happen often. You find somebody who where there's, I don't know, almost kind of instantly like a resonance with what they're doing, and where you want to be, and also where there's an ability to speak the same language now. Does that make sense? So you know, I mean, I think there's like the collaborators who you kind of grow up with, if you will, that you kind of, you know, meet in your formative artistic career. And then there are those who, what's rarer is when you find along the way those who connect with where you are now, but also kind of help you aspire to where you want to go. And that's kind of, I think, where the relationship with Rachel has been for me personally and for American Stage, because her work has strongly resonated with me and with the company since she first submitted to us. And then also just our interactions have been just kind of, I don't want to say easy, because that doesn't do justice to the nuance and complexity of what a creative collaboration is. But it doesn't feel like, it feels like there's a give and take and an ease with which we can openly discuss things. And that's still growing. I mean, I think this is the next level of what that relationship.
I mean, is there literally like a shiver up the spine moment? Like, yeah, this is working. I like this. And how would you describe that kind of collaborative relationship, Rachel?
I think I just am used to working really collaboratively. It's something that's really important to me. I like to joke that the reason why I write so fast is because I just want the play to be ready to show actors, so I can just get in the room and work with other people. And so that's just a big part of my process. I really I think as a playwright who wants to work, that also means being collaborative with a theater company and understanding the audience that they have, and working with the artistic director and your director to just make the show its best possible version. And that's something I'm pretty open to. And I think but I think it stems from, I just love collaborating. I love creating like a ground floor and then getting to get in the room and be like, okay, let's mess this up. I used to have a problem in my early days where I would just completely rewrite the entire play. And I had to be told, like, don't throw the baby out of the bathwater, calm down. But I just love that spirit.
You gotta trust yourself. This is a different situation though. I guess you can't be here when this is happening. I mean, this is not in the room collaboration, in other words. I don't know. I don't know if you guys have recorded this yet for virtual, but if you have, or if you're about to, how involved in that process will you be, Rachel, with the actors?
I'm trying to be as involved as I can. I have a lot, it's a really busy time right now. So there's times where I have to step out and, but I've been there. I was there this morning for the rehearsals. I've been there as much as I can. I believe I'm going to be doing some talkbacks, so I'll be there for the shows.
Fantastic.
So as much as I can be, really. And some of it's just watching the fun of it. It's kind of nice to see a virtual tech, which I know sounds weird, but it is.
Yeah, I wondered about that. I watched a couple of virtual things, and it's I love them when there are numerous actors and they kind of pretend like they're crossing from their screen into the next screen to touch or hand something off, and where it's more out of the mind, because this is like you are presenting this in a box essentially. That's your stage. Is there a stage for this? This is just a stupid question, but it's off the top of my head. What does it look like?
Yeah, it's not at all a stupid question right now. Okay. I mean, I think I don't want to give away too much about kind of what the kind of premise. I don't know how much how much we want to go into that, but it's meant to kind of exist in a space that is without a architectural definition to it. It's not meant to be terra firma, kind of space. And so that's allowing us some creative play in terms of what it feels like. And it's also helping us to maximize, I think, the platform of doing it digitally.
I'm gonna look, I'm talking to you like you're up there in the screen, Rachel. I'm gonna step into the question, because I haven't seen you since the Reimagined season was announced. I mean, what's the response been? I know there's always this sort of trepidation as to, well, are the folks going to buy it? I mean, do they think this is cool? Or are they going to think this is totally a whack idea? I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
What's the response been since you're announced?
To be honest, it's mixed. I mean, there are people who are who are excited, who loved what we did, or kind of grew to enjoy what we did over the summer. There are those who don't want to have anything to do with digital, and we're trying to encourage them to give it a try, because what we're learning and how we're continuing to evolve the way in which we're telling stories in this way is, I think, going to continue to be engaging and satisfying to audiences in ways that will surprise them. So we're both, and then there's the title itself. It's provocative. It's a provocative title right now. Whether it should be or not is not for me to say, but the reality is people have opinions just about the title. I think that there's differences around, different feelings around that. So we have some work to do on whether this title or any, on getting people to try engaging with us this way and seeing what that experience is. And then with this work, one of the things that Rachel is so great about, that I think it would be really really unfortunate for people to skip it because they think that because of a certain position that they take politically, that they would miss a robust and complex.
Oh yeah, it's above and beyond. Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
So the short answer to that is it's mixed, and we're going to keep working on building our audience in this place, and convincing them that there's something really valuable in this, and for those who are enjoying it, getting them to help us get the word out there.
Let me make this my last question. I'm going to ask you both, because I had in my mind this phrase you just used, which was that, yes, audiences find it something exciting and intriguing, and the experience still comes through. But what is it like for you to do these things virtually? I mean, are you both kind of like, damn it, it's not the same for either of you? Rachel, let me start with you, because you started your company virtually. I guess the watered down version of that question is, don't you miss the stage?
I do miss the stage, but I think that we are living in a time where people need the heartbeat of theater the most. Theater teaches us empathy. Theater teaches us how to communicate and how to connect with each other. And so to not do theater because we can't be on the stage feels like a great loss. And so do I miss being on the stage and rehearsing in a closet? I do, actually. I really recently have been like, I really miss rehearsing in a broom closet. But I also have recognized that this is just what the moment calls for. And I think theater artists have to be brave and bold, and not to reimagine how we are going to do our art form in the meantime, just because it's too much to not do it. We should do something. And it's especially now. It's important now. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, inertia isn't going to help anything. Yeah. Stephanie, what do you say?
I to be boring, everything Rachel just said, but I miss it so much. I miss the live experience and being in a room with people, and that energy that you just feel viscerally when you're in a shared space. Miss it like so much. Yeah. But it is also so interesting right now that we have had that taken away from us at a moment where the work is so needed. It is so necessary. And so what I'm finding is that our own, as creatives, our own kind of frustration that then is coming up against this great desire is creating these moments where, like, I had a production meeting around one of our other productions a few days ago, and you could feel that everyone's just so happy and hungry to be creating together and collaborating together. And that energy, that is, there's something about that's new and fresh, because we have a gratitude for it and a hunger for it that I think is going to inform the work in ways that will be exciting for our communities as well.
I hadn't thought of that, just the gratitude. I remember I spoke with Katrina Stevenson last week, who was directing that Shakespeare Bridge, over at on the Riverwalk stage. And gratitude, I think, was a word she used. Like, it was such a great feeling to be, doing what we, and being able to do it virtually. It's nice, so we can still do this and still give our audience something. But being there, working those muscles again, She said, it was palpable. She said, the gratitude that I felt for being able to do this, even in this small way. Rachel, I want to close by asking you what's next for you.
Everything all at once. So next, it's tricky because I have something this weekend. Apologies to Lauren Hansberry will be at Orlando Shakespeare Theater on Saturday. And then after that, it's Letters to Kamala. And then after that, I'm directing. So I'm kind of just doing everything all at once, all the time. And
I'm like Stephanie. Yeah.
So it's exciting. It's fun. I'm working on a couple of shows. I you can't really see it, but I had to map out my next couple of weeks because it's gotten so intense. So
you were able to quit your day job, you said, right, on the blog.
Sorry?
You did quit your day job, right?
I did. I had to. There's no way I could have done letters and still had that job.
On the blog, I don't have 10 minutes between now and November, and this is October or something. So thanks for taking the time, man. Stephanie, what about you? I mean, you're rolling out the virtual stuff starting next week on the 21st with this one.
Yeah.
And I mean, thoughts as to, the next couple of months.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's always multiple things at one time in any year. And right now, because we're learning a lot of new things, it's like being at school and doing the work, at the same time. It's like being a full-time student and, full-time running a company, because we're learning the new technologies. We're doing, we're developing new work. We're working on the commission of Nosotros la Gente, which is coming along beautifully. We're about to go into rehearsals for Kate. And we're talking about what a different kind of approach to It's a Wonderful Life might look like, and then talking about what our return to on-site in January is what the potentials around there, working with the unions, working on the budget, figuring out where the revenue is going to come from.
Yeah.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Well, meanwhile, I have an air conditioning guy who's starting to knock a wall down here. I'm in my home office, as are you guys, I guess. So it's time to say goodbye, but thank you so much. Stephanie Gularte, Rachel Lynett, you guys, Letters to Kamala, fantastic. Thanks again.
Thank you.
See you, bye.
Okay, bye.